And he had been with us all so just go live to see Facebook. So we lived there before. And so let's just go back.
So what do you want for the description?
Giant.
Okay.
They don't have time.
Just a little different.
Just giant.
Hey, it's good. How you doing?
Traditionally,
Hey.
it's
How's it going?
I recognize the face back there too.
Somewhere back here.
it's like a Sunday dish.
Doing all right.
Better than I just.
How's it going?
Good, how you doing?
Doing okay?
Did you know a Scott Wilker?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
His dad was my little league football coach.
Really?
Yeah, I remember throwing the football. Well, this is a funny thing. Scott was a little bit younger. Yeah, too young.
Yeah.
But we were on the. We were about to go into the junior high. When I remember Scott, we were playing this thing. Greg Taylor, he went on to play over.
Memorial Day.
And they were cheating. He was the quarterback. They were all cheating up, and I was quarterback. I told Scott, I said, "You just fly it out." So he took off. After playing this, I just said he got about a 50-yard line. So we were on about 50 yards.
Yeah.
I said, "That's right." And let me tell you, Greg Taylor was so fast. He had about 30 yards on him. He caught it like a 5-yard line.
I never would have thought Scott.
Oh, yeah.
Because I worked with him at the
And
University
they
of
send her?
Yeah, this was when we were young.
Yeah.
Because he was little.
In the car.
Hey, good to see you.
Billboard looks good.
Oh, thank you.
Can you zoom in on that one? You can.
Yeah.
We're in Montgomery.
Here's one part.
Yeah.
We got another meeting.
No, I think we're-
Yeah, you can put it in.
Yeah, I was actually in Mobile because.
On your phone, you can see how loud it
This is good.
Oh, we didn't get the microphone.
But I didn't.
Yep. Pretty good.
Sometimes I have to. See, I've done some of it like Scottsboro,
Well, they're talking, it's good. Let me get everybody's attention. Because we need to go ahead and get started. Y'all continue eating, do what you're doing. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would.
Sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm gonna introduce, first of all, a couple of things to talk about Giant. On the table over here, I've got some T-shirts, some hats from that Ed donated to us. Ed's going to be the second speaker. He's running Secretary of State. And then we got Dean Odle running for governor. He's going to be the first speaker. But also, I've got some handouts from the different candidates, and also got some handouts that my printout from Giant. It shows you who's running for office and different information. Where to go get information for your different candidates, for 2022 candidates. So feel free to grab whatever's on there. Grab your button, and after we're done, we'll take a big picture of everybody that's here. Anybody got any questions?
Do we have to be in the picture?
There's devices out here on the sofa.
Now, if you got questions, feel free. I'm just gonna let it roll. Dean can only be here till about 6.
6:30 is, and maybe a little after. We have to run quick because we got to go to Athens. There's a big gubernatorial debate type forum. I think there's like 4 or 5 of the candidates going to be there. So it kind of came up at the last minute. So I had to tell them, yeah, we'll be there. You know,
Okay.
I can't let them outdo me, man.
No. So,
That's right.
Dean, go ahead, kick it off,
All right.
and we'll ask questions as we go through.
Okay.
All right.
And I'll be brief about this.
We've got the camera set up here.
So you want me back here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got you on Facebook Live and YouTube.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
Yeah, push it down.
Well, I'll introduce myself real quick. Let y'all know, of course, my name is Dean Odle. I remind everybody it's Odle like Yodel, so they won't forget. I've had everything from Oodle to Odell to Odle to you name it, but it's Odle. And I'm a pastor, been a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ for like 35 years. Pastor a church in Opelika, Alabama, and that's where I grew up. Though about 1984, midway through high school, I moved from Opelika to Montgomery and ended up living in Montgomery a long time. Went to Troy State University, as I was sharing with some of the guys earlier. Went there for my first year of college. Got a modeling contract with a big agency in Atlanta that did a screen test for all the soap operas. And then next thing I knew, after our first photo shoot, I was getting a part in the first Die Hard movie. And but in between, right before I went to Hollywood to be in that movie, and I only knew one speed. Back then I was not living for Jesus. I was drinking and partying and doing all that immoral life pretty heavily. But God got a hold of me, and I left Troy and gave my life to the Lord Jesus and answered the call to ministry then. And I've been doing that ever since. That was 1987. I don't regret a thing about following him all these years. I never thought I'd get into politics, though I say this. I did consider running for Congress right after 9/11, just because I think a lot of us thought, you know what, we need to be more involved. We need to do something, especially after that happened. But I just, after a while of looking into it, I realized it probably wasn't something I needed to do at that time. And then after that, I pretty much dismissed the thought of ever getting into this arena ever again. But when the coronavirus pandemic hit, and everybody knows, what went down there, I was kind of surprised that we had a Republican governor who claimed to be a conservative, Governor Ivey, when she began to shut down everything, businesses and churches and schools. And some people say, well, now she didn't shut down churches, but yes, she greatly restricted, put out her little mandate, her little order, stay-at-home order, and it was 10 people, and everybody's got to be seated so far apart, or you can't do it. So I just knew immediately, as a pastor and as someone who loves the Constitution and loves America, I knew that she was violating my First Amendment rights, and I wasn't going to allow that to happen. And so we didn't shut down our church. And then, of course, I'm a researcher, and as a pastor, I'm a little different because I dig into what's going on. I don't get my news from CNN or MSNBC or now even Fox. Pretty much, I don't hardly listen to any of them. I look outside the box. I do my research, and I started finding out in end of February 2020, even into March, I began finding out that we had the treatments for the coronavirus. We had the Dr. Didier Raoult of France, Dr. Peter McCullough, Texas A&M, Dr. Harvey Rich of Yale, Dr. George Fareed, Harvard graduate. All these doctors and scientists began to come out and say, we have a treatment, the hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, the zinc protocol works. It's saving people's lives. It saved my life in August, so I know it's true. But you just had this. Now there's 17,000. A lot of people don't know there's 17,000 doctors and scientists who've signed on to the Rome Declaration to say we need to be able to do this, these treatments that the press and everybody attacked back in 2020. But we know President Trump made it public in March of 2020. Laura Ingraham, Fox News, made it public. Now the studies are coming out. Dr. Harvey Rich of Yale testified in Senator Ron Johnson's thing that, hey, the studies are here now. It was true all along. We could have saved thousands of lives. Dr. Peter McCullough said that. He said we could have saved 85% of the people who died. But what made me angry was when I saw our governor, or even our lieutenant governor, and our state health director, and really none of our leaders in the state ever said we need to push this. We need to have these early treatment protocols. We need to save lives because people are dying. And that to me was just unacceptable. I thought to myself, it wouldn't be any different. We got a Marine right here. You see your men dying and there's something you can do about it, and you sat back and you did nothing. What would people think about you? And that's what I thought about. I was like, I can't sit back and do nothing anymore. We need real leadership. And then, of course, it doesn't take much to look at our state and find out that we have several disasters going on. The prison system and the education system, particularly our K through 12. And for years, many years, even when I was pastoring in Montgomery from 95 to 2002, I used to say, we need to have school choice. That's the only way that we're going to fix the problem. So I've been school choice for a long time. I'm not just jumping on it because it's got popular here recently. And so I found out, I started doing a little research and found out that Florida, in 2017, Florida was ranked 29th in K through 12 education. And the Governor DeSantis came in and he got rid of the Common Core, the Obama's curriculum that's been a disaster in math and reading in particular, and it's in its socialist indoctrination as well. But Governor DeSantis got rid of that by executive order. Then they expanded their school choice programs to make 56% of their state eligible. And from 2017, in just 4 years, to 2021, they went from 29th to 3rd. Now, if Florida can do it, and it works that well, Alabama can do it. Our legislature just recently put forth the Parents' Choice Act. The moment I looked into it, found out this is just a fake Trojan horse attempt to get hold of public schools and private schools, not public schools, but religious schools, and even homeschooling. They were trying to get their hands in that. So what makes me a little different from my competitors here, my opponents in this race, is that I want to do a total, complete, full school voucher program across the board, even take it further than Florida did, and no strings attached, no government board overseeing who can be eligible and who can't. And, they were even saying this last time. They were saying, oh, we can't give school vouchers or school choice because that's the state's money. We can't take money from the schools. No, it's not the state's money. It's our money. It's our tax money. I look at it as a tax cut. You give a parent a voucher, you're saying, here's your tax money. Take it to the school that's actually going to help your child succeed. And that's what I'm going to do. So that's the big difference between me and my opponents. And then the other thing, and I'm doing this real quick just to give you all a little rundown. But I am working with my campaign. We're working with a Trump advisor. He was at the White House with Trump for 4 years. Toward the end, he got frustrated because there were some people around Trump that were blocking him. But the guy's an expert on the energy and economy. And so we've been working with him, and we showed him all the information that he needed from Alabama, the geological stuff, our oil and natural gas, the potential that we have here. Plus, this guy has a patent on new hydroelectric technology, and we have great rivers here all over Alabama. In fact, non-dam hydroelectric power that we can put on rivers and really change the game here. And I know that we have a lot of oil and natural gas that we're not drilling for. We've got all these federal regulations and restrictions, and they're not allowing us to lease land and our own territorial waters. And I just realized something here. And when it comes to the Second Amendment and all these other things, you have to have a governor that's willing to nullify unconstitutional and overreaching federal laws and regulations. You just got to be able to have a governor say no. And this is something that we want to do. And we're mapping out a plan. Matter of fact, we're the only campaign, the only candidate for governor that actually says, here's the plan of what we want to do to expand our oil and natural gas drilling and our hydro and put some new technology in this hydroelectric area. And it's going to change things. It will change things. Alabama needs to produce wealth, not just try to entice businesses here to the point where they never pay any taxes. Like the Golden Dragon deal they made for that copper company. Now, it's ridiculous. Do you know that they won't pay taxes in Alabama for 20 years? I mean, that's about ridiculous. And what did we get out of it? Maybe 200 jobs, and most of those went to the Chinese people they brought over. So, but you know what that was for? That was for politicians to be able to say, oh, we bought a company here and we brought jobs here. And we even gave them 20 million cash so they could pave the roads around their place. And it's just ridiculous. So that kind of stuff has to stop. We've got to generate wealth. And if we do that with energy, and we'll create jobs, and look at it. Biden and them are talking about right now buying oil from Russia and from China. And we don't need to be dependent on Russia and China anymore. And so, again, you just have to have a governor who's just not going to go down these roads. I mean, China loves chaotic. She's one of their most favorite governors. I wonder why that is. That shouldn't be. And it won't be if I'm governor. So those are some things where we're different. And I want to give you guys some time to ask some questions. But, there's a zillion things we could cover. From the mandates, of course, I'm not for ever shutting down the state. I'm not for vaccine mandates of any kind. I would never let that happen. And I would have stopped that nonsense before people were losing their jobs over it a long time ago. It should be your choice. You want to take a vaccine? You should be free to go take it. But don't make me take it. If I don't want to take it, don't threaten me with the loss of my job or my career because I don't want to take a vaccine. So that's where I stand on those things. But anybody got any questions? Yes, sir.
The school voucher program you just talked about, has that been done in any other states that you know of?
There's about 20-something states that's actually tried school choice.
To the extent you're talking about?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Florida has gone the furthest, again, making 56% of their state. And you see what happened to them. 29th to 3rd.
Sure.
So nobody's gone that far, but I think, some of the books I've read of people that talk about the importance of school choice, and this is something I believe to be true. If you only do a little bit or you only do piecemeal, you're never going to get the free market competition between schools. You have to have schools competing for those vouchers. So if parents can choose, I'm going to take my money over here, say an $8,000-$9,000 voucher. I'm going to take this over here to this school. Well, schools are going to start competing with one another to have the best curriculum, the best teachers, the best administration. So you create free market competition if you go all the way with it. But if you don't, and the state still controls it, listen, state control of anything is pretty much communism. And that's why it doesn't work. But if you back the state out of it, then the state doesn't say you have to use this curriculum, or you can't discipline this way, or you can't expel people, all this stuff. If you get the state out of education, I believe it's going to be just like the free market. A good business that's doing things right and hires good employees, what do? They prosper. Bad businesses that do bad things and have bad employees, they go away. So that's why I believe we got to do it a lot. You can't just do it a little bit.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, good question. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Can you explain a little bit about the gas tax?
Yeah, the gas tax.
How it works, and if you're elected, if you plan to do anything.
Oh yeah. We know the gas tax, was initially 10 cents, and then it's this ever increasing based on kind of the how the economy goes and the cost of living and all that. So if it's, and here we are in inflation, so meaning it's pretty much guaranteed now that it's going to go up forever. And I was against it back when she was doing it. I was like, Republicans, conservatives are not about raising taxes. We're taxed enough. I believe we could have done the same thing by just cutting some waste that we have in the government. We could have paid for everything that way. We've learned this. We learned this from even John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan, both. What did they do? They cut taxes and the economy always went up, right? And government revenues go up when you cut taxes. So I want to get rid of it completely. But like I said, I think you've got to say, well, how are you going to pay for these things? Well, if we expand our oil and natural gas drilling, if we do this new stuff with the hydroelectric technology, then we're going to be producing wealth, and we're not going to need to be dependent on the gas tax, and we want to eliminate the grocery tax. I want to get down where we eliminate property taxes. To me, that's the most unconstitutional tax there is. The government should never be able to take your land and property that you've worked for and paid for. They should never be able to take that from you. So that's some things I want to do. We want to actually lower taxes, and we have a plan to do it. If we expand our drilling and we expand our energy sector, we're going to attract jobs, and boom, we can lower taxes. And that's going to be my goal. I will not raise taxes. We will start getting rid of some.
Then there's a lot of activity in the gambling arena. Is it gonna be too late by the time you make it an office to stop it, or?
Well, I honestly think that there's so many greedy factors and sections of, should say factions of the gambling issue. That I don't think they're going to agree on anything. So I think we'll have time. But, bottom line, the governor can either push it or not push it. I'm not going to push it. I'm against it, especially casino gambling. I'll tell you why, because I think it's just going to increase organized crime in the state. And, it just takes things downhill. It's not just the fact that I'm a Christian and I'm not pro gambling. I just think it's a bad idea across the board. We don't want to become Atlantic City. We don't become New Jersey. We look at Mississippi. It hadn't really helped Mississippi all that much. Lotteries only work for a while until politicians figure out that it's another cookie jar of money they can start robbing from, and then that starts failing. So I don't believe we need those things in Alabama. Alabama can stay free from those things. And we're blessed. Again, we're just blessed with natural resources and rivers and everything else, and good people, conservative people. We're the most conservative state. The problem is, or one of the most conservative. The problem is we just keep getting tricked by politicians who say they're conservative when they're running for office, and then they get in and they're really run like Democrats. So, but I'm just against it. Now they're going to push it again. They're going to push the lottery. They're going to push it. If the lottery ends up with the people voting on it, I think it's going to be voted down again. It was voted down. I remember it being voted down when I lived in Montgomery. So, I just don't think it's going to happen here. And I would be against it.
Speaking of rivers, you mentioned something about non-dam hydroelectric plants or some kind of systems. Mm-hmm. As a fisherman, and I know the state's full of rivers and fishermen, whatever, y'all need to make sure that there's no harm.
Oh yeah, this guy, and this is a good thing. This guy that we're working with, he's a Cambridge graduate. He has a patent on this, and they've already tested it in Europe, over in I think it's Sweden, Switzerland, and those areas. Now they are fanatical about environmental issues. Okay. So if there was any environmental problems with that, it would never have happened. And this guy, I'll tell you this, even though he's a conservative and pro-Trump guy, worked with Trump. We also have some green technology that we want to implement that will actually work. And he's got some great ideas we want to clean up. And he's got a way, and he told me, I'm not going to give away the secret right now, but a way that we can clean up the coal ash problem that we have in Alabama that causes cancer. And there's some bad places that need to be cleaned up, but there's a way to clean it up and actually create energy out of that while you clean it up. And this guy's got some interesting ideas, but I'm not talking about windmills and solar panels. We know those are not that efficient. So he's got some great ideas on that, but it's think about it. If you don't have to build a dam to get something, you just pretty much install in the river and let the water run through it. Yeah. And they're just highly efficient. And that's one of the things. I think he said you can go from like 6 cents per kilowatt hour to 2. So that's a big difference. But
what kind of investment? Did it give you any kind of idea what the money would be?
I could ask him. He didn't tell me specifically, but I know it's a lot cheaper than building a dam.
Sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Anybody else? Good questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I think we've learned recently how dependent we are on other countries for food. So what can be done to increase the farming here in Alabama?
Yeah, we met with a guy the other day who I think he'd been a professor at Alabama and some other school. Can't remember where he was a professor, but this guy he sat down and explained to us for about an hour about how he's put together a plan to make smaller farms, completely self-sufficient and sustainable like that. And he said he wants to implement those in Alabama. And I told him, I said, this is something that's been on our mind because I got my farmer cattleman here from Arkansas that we're going to put in charge of this stuff. But we do want to develop and make Alabama more self-sufficient in everywhere. Food security, pharmaceuticals. I just recently found this. I didn't even know this, how dependent we are on China for our antibiotics and and necessity. I mean, just people like medicine, like blood pressure medicine, Alzheimer's medicine. But 97% of our antibiotics are made in China, or the raw materials to make them. And we don't even have this. I blew my mind. We do not even have a penicillin factory in the United States. The last one closed in 2004. If China cut us off with pharmaceuticals, we're in big trouble. Big trouble. Or they could contaminate what they're sending us. and then we're even in bigger trouble. So we've got to get off of all that. We've got to become self-sufficient. I've told people, I said, I'm just going to call it the Joseph Project, because we need to work on becoming energy, food, medicine, all of that self-sufficient, because we're headed into some days ahead of us that are going to be pretty rough. And especially if war escalates, if China invades Taiwan, then you're going to see the supply chain, just like we found out, a lot of the wheat comes from the Ukraine, a lot of barley, the fertilizer comes from the Ukraine. We're talking about the whole chain being messed up here. But we're blessed. We're blessed with good weather. We've got good land and soil. We've got Alabama's just blessed. We can do a lot, but we haven't prepared. Our governors, sad to say, they've been looking out for number one instead of looking out for, looking to the future and going, what's coming and what do we need to do to prepare and protect ourselves. And really the whole nation, I think we've been kind of lax. And, there's brigadier generals that said just this pharmaceutical dependence on China is a national security threat. So we've got to make some changes quick. Let's see what time we got. Well, all right, couple more. Any more questions? Y'all have good questions. Yes, sir.
All right. Right now in the political race, we've got a number of candidates, 3 running for Senate, the governor who could basically would give us the same talking points you did. Two of the Senate candidates we know are from the go along to get along faction. That's the same thing that's kind of corrupted Governor Ivey, if you will. Pretty much all of her biggest disappointments as governor have come from that, whether it's the mandates or any of that. In fact, the state legislature just about had that. It was to the point where they were probably going to override her veto when she finally signed it. So how do I know you're not going to be the same way?
You don't know. See, this is the thing about politics. The only way you can know that somebody's going to be different, you have to know it in your gut. You just have to know. I mean, I can sit here and tell you all day long the reasons why I believe I'm different than them. I've never been a politician. I'm a pastor, so you can look at what I believe about theology and about politics for 35 years. It hadn't changed. I have no desire to, money. There's a few things. I'm not after money, and I'm not after fame or whatever. Bottom line is, I want to just do what's right for the state. But that's just, you got to take my word for it. You got to believe that, or you just got to know it in your heart. You got to pray about it. That's what I tell people. They need to pray about everything. They need to pray, because granted, now there's politicians, and I've heard all of them speak. Doing this campaign is what I said a minute ago. I've got to meet and listen to almost everyone that's going to be on the ballot in 2022. And some of them are slick and say everything perfect, and I wouldn't vote for them. Some of them I'd vote for a Democrat before I vote for them. That's how bad they are. But yeah, there's no way I can tell you, hey, yeah, trust me, I'm different. You just have to know that, because, I haven't been in politics, so I don't have a record. But you can either look at that as a good thing, or you can look at that as a bad thing. But people who know me will tell you, my wife, everybody else, what you see in public is the way I am in private. And I'm just a strong enough leader to do what I believe is right, no matter who likes it and who doesn't like it. And that's just the way I am. And if I believe it's the right thing to do, I don't care who tries to come against me. And they know, I've already had threats and everything else. They can't buy me, and they can't scare me. And I don't really care about being popular. I care about doing what's right. So that's just me. I mean, but, everybody was worried about Trump. We didn't know what we were going to get. But Trump went in there and did what he said he was going to do. And wasn't perfect, but he did what he said he was going to do. And that's what I'm going to try to do. That's all I can tell you.
That's interesting, because we've had some people we've met that say, as they hear you speak, say, well, when you go in there, you might have to give a little bit, or ease off something to get something done. They're worried about his integrity and steadfastness to not change his position, what he sees is right. So you're exactly the opposite of what we've been hearing the whole time about being worried about him being able to, give and political to get things done.
Yeah. But, you talk about school choice. 75% of the people, it polls at between 75 and 80%, yet when the AEA has money in the Republican, half the Republicans' pocket, when it's in the state platform to not get in bed with these people, that's why stuff doesn't get done.
You're correct. You are correct. I mean, this is a huge problem. But see, you remember how Ivy, listen, most of our legislature, and I'll answer it this way, most of our legislators in 2018 that came in, even the new ones that came in, ran their campaigns on not raising taxes. We're not going to raise your taxes. Some of them even were specific, said we're not going to raise the gas tax. Governor Ivy basically got her list up and started pressuring them all, telling them, first of all, she was going to cut off money to their districts, that they were going to finance people to run against them and primary them. So what she did was she used her power as the governor to push legislators to pass a gas tax that most of them ran against. Now, as governor, I can do the same thing for school choice. I can do the same thing for cutting taxes. We just hadn't had a governor. You know, the last 3 Republican governors in this state all proposed massive tax increases. And Ivy's the only one that got one passed. But I'm going to tell you right now, we can do this, and I can put pressure on those legislators. I've told them, I said, if I'm governor, and you won't vote right on cutting taxes or school choice or these things that we need to get done, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, some of these other things that we ought to do, I said, I'll go to your district and campaign against you myself as governor. I'll do whatever's necessary to make their lives miserable. I hold press conferences every day saying, we're trying to improve the schools, and here's your legislators who will not help us. I mean, I'll be ruthless to do the right thing that we need to get done to actually get something to change things. We've got to change things. And I'm going to tell you right now, most of my opponents do not talk about some of the stuff. They don't talk about the pandemic response. They talk about school choice, but they don't talk about total school choice, true freedom. They don't talk about these things. None of them are talking about expanding our energy and nullifying federal overreach by the 10th Amendment, and the governor standing firm against that. My opponents don't talk about those things at all, because I've been in meeting after meeting after meeting with them. They keep it light points. So I'm giving specifics, and I plan on doing it. And I plan on pressuring the legislature to do it. And we're going to have some new legislators this go around. There's some rhinos that are going to be voted out this time. So we're going to have I think we're going to have a more of a conservative group than we've had before. So we have some hope. Yes.
This is gone now, but it was big then. The statues, Confederate statues, it seems like everything was done in the middle of the night and nobody knows it.
Right.
What's your belief on the statues?
Well, I'm a little different in this. I will say this. You get into a big problem when you start talking about moving everything, moving these statues. We need to come down to an agreement. Like, for instance, not just moving them or whatever. And we have to consider, look, I consider the African-American community, they got a point. The Confederate flag and